Good day and welcome back to the next Backstage Pass Podcast. Now, some of you might be aware, the purpose of this podcast is to share the stories of the lovely people we work with in the events industry, to get their experiences, the uphill battles, the trauma that they've gone through. Why do we do this? Because there's a bunch of new kids coming into the industry with expectations of walking in like gods, getting everything that they want, and that does not happen. And today's guest is the perfect example of what happens when you focus on growth. You don't let it go to your head, even though sometimes that might be the temptation, but you work hard, you learn, and ultimately you take multiple punches to the face every single day. So a few years ago, we put on an ad. We were looking for a operations assistant for our ops department, and our guest applied. Now, every once in a while, you come across a person where you can see all the potential in them, and you know they have the ability to change the world. So when we had our interview, I said, I am not going to hire you for an operations assistant job. I have a different plan for you. And so started her journey into chaos here at Multimedia. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to put your hands together and welcome Jade Augustus. Yeah, welcome Jade. Yeah.
Thank you.
So Jade, welcome, and please share with the people. What do you do currently? And also, how do you take such good care of your hair so that your family has to respond on your hair?
I'm Jade. I am the director of events. I somewhat always feel like my job is to make magic and deal with a problem. I take problems away and I make sure that your event is not like every other, because we don't do a copy and paste approach.
You
So
say
that's me
you
in a
take
nutshell.
problems
And then on my
away.
hair, just had to add that in there.
On solving problems, you might solve problems for customers, but then you create problems for me, Jade. No, man. No, I'm just kidding with you. So, Jade, please give me one word that defines your career so far.
So I've used the word pioneering because I think that the events department within multimedia is a very new approach. And we all know that from a technical perspective, your event manager is your biggest problem when you're on site. I've been on the other side of it and I've seen I need a light, I need this, I need that. And everyone will just be like, she's on her way coming. And I think for me, it was to pioneer a good strategy to work in sync with the team, like to have us all together and have an end goal. It's not my vision that overrides yours, but together, let's make it work. So I think that's why pioneering just makes sense to me right now.
I think you chose the most generic word. I don't think your word is pioneering. I think your word is Afrikaans. Because between all the agriculture shows and all the Afrikaans speaking people at Multimedia whose English airtime runs out, you've become quite elegant in talking the taal here at Multimedia. And years ago, you shared a story of when you joined the TV industry, and also just Afrikaans people everywhere, and they offered you wine. I want you to share that story with our audience.
So I was new into the TV industry and I got a position at KykNet. I went to an Afrikaans school and I think that threw them off on my CV because they were like, aangename kennis, and I was like, hi, like, what are we doing here? Anyway, we got to the event and it was still with one of like the top management of KykNet. And so she was like, Jade, hoe gaan het? Wat tipe wyn drink jy? And I stood there and I was like, Here tannie, ons drink papsak by die huis. Ek weet nie wat tipe wyn sê ek, Namakwa or Four Cousins. So, and look at me now. Now I know what's a good capsav. So there's growth in everything, I guess.
That's one of
But
the
yeah, I
coolest things.
remember being disappointed at my parents because I was like, you guys, this is not life. Popsuck is not a life to love.
It's one of the cool things about going to events, because events exposes you to more than just pop sock every single day. But share with the people, how did you end up in events?
So I think I don't think anyone chooses to end up in events. I used to love hosting at home. And I think planning few 5 platters and a case of beer is completely different to what I thought actually goes into events. Um, I saw an ad on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, this sounds cool. I mean, I love planning. Oh, little did I know what this job had in store for me. Um, yeah, I ended up here, I'm just going to say, by liking things. I like a good time. So clearly, this is where I'm at. Now I just watch people have a good time instead of me actually having a good time.
Now you watch people have a good time while you deal with all the emotional trauma of those things. But just
Asking for more
to
wine and
the
stuff, and I'm like, no.
for the viewers, just some background on Jade's journey. When she joined our operations team. She was in the operations team for about 3 months, primarily to understand how the business operates. Completely new thing for her, very logistics driven. And I said to her, Jade, for you to understand this business, you need to understand how the business operates in the background. And then after the 3 months, she then spent a year or two, I can't remember how long it was, being an assistant key account manager for Jason. And during this time, we started sending Jade on training courses for event management before ultimately giving her this responsibility of running with our event management department. And looking at Jade's journey and comparing it to mine, when I joined multimedia, I think I was here for 2 weeks. I walked up to one of the shareholders on site and I say to them, I don't want to be a tech forever. I want to go into business, whatever the hell that meant at that moment in time. I think it's such a stupid and arrogant thing to say to someone. But that's how my journey started. And Jade, your journey year so far, you've never asked for anything. We just say to you, swim. And you would jump in and you would gooi. And I want to know from you, what drives this willingness or ability to ultimately push for growth and development in yourself?
So I think, like, for me, having the trust of, like, I think for one of my biggest things as a career is when Jason was like, I need to hand over an APSA job to you. And I was like, are you crazy? That's your baby. Why would you give it to me? And I think that trust is what actually pushed me forward, because I know that
Mm.
you have to mess up in order for them to be like, she's not the girl. So for me, I think that's what drives me, is the people that's behind me looking at me and trusting me. That drives me more than anything. I think at the back of my mind, it's always you, it's always Jason that's on my mind to say, is this the best or can we do a little bit better? And
Mhm.
I think that's just constantly pushed me. And I mean, I've been in big rooms with big people, and there's times I sit there and I'm like, I don't belong here. What am I doing? Like, this is not for me. I don't want to say fake it till we make it, but there's just no excuse anymore to say I can't, because there's you TikTok something before
Uh,
a meeting if you need to understand the stock market or the Dubai, whatever's happening in the war if you need to. But just like for me, that's just been the biggest thing, is of not letting I always say the guys down, the boys, because
mm.
I'm around a team of men. So it's just like I always just be like, I can't let the boys down. So yeah, that's what drives me the most.
I earlier this week I posted something on LinkedIn and I said I think, and I got a screenshot from Pierre Duplessis, and he's like, "Quick lesson: you don't think, you know." And I was like, yo, like shots fired. He's like, "I never want to hear you ever say again, I think." He's like, "You know what you need to do." But
Yeah.
Jade, like, you've experienced the blood, sweat, tears, mud, rain, all kinds of things, factors that the events industry throws you, all the chaos. What was the moment when you realized that, okay, this is not a normal job.
Oh, I don't know which example you want, but I'm going to use the most recent one. We were at Bothaville in the Free State, and we were busy with an expo stand, and this weather came out of nowhere, a storm, wind, it was crazy. And our lighting technician was busy programming when the storm hit. It was freezing cold, and I took my jacket off to cover the lighting desk. And I stood there, and I was like, this is not normal. This is not what normal people do. Like, so I think, yeah, that's when I realized this is not a normal job. And I think like now, when I go into venues and if I'm attending a conference and I'm like, this registration flow is swak. Where's the fire exits? What's the ceiling height here? Can we rig here? So it takes away from who you are as a person now. And that's when I'm also just like, I don't have a normal job because I can't sit anywhere without looking for a fire exit. So yeah.
It's with your story of putting your jacket over the lighting desk. So you're basically going from multimedia to hypothermia, and that is the progression of one's career at this place. I did one and only one show in Bothaville. It was brutal. We were awake for 38 hours. Things went south, so all the technicians jumped in to start helping with branding, and it was chaotic. And also the storms pulled in Bothaville, like only the storms can pull in at Bothaville. And we had this LED screen suspended from two diggers, met die armpies with the arms, and this thing was hanging there. And we were still like doing branding, and someone said, maybe we should just go and check on the LED screen that's hanging close to the entrance of the park. So myself and Andre, we race there, and it starts raining, and it is hell. And we get there, and there's no one to operate these machines. And because they work on air pressure, they slowly suck. They deflate over time. So Andre would then go and like switch on the entire thing. As we say in Afrikaans, die stootskraper. And Andre would operate this thing and lift the screen to where it needs to be, and we tie it down. And I'm standing there, I park my car and I light up the screen and the piece of equipment, and the rain's coming down. And I take out my phone and I snap this photo of Andre in the equipment, and lightning strikes at that exact moment. And it's just this dramatic thing that like shows you what the Bothaville experience is like. I should actually see if I can find the photo and overlay it on this session. But it was such a dramatic moment. And that night we left. So we started lying down some of the branding elements because the storm was chaotic. It's just wind. And the next morning it was show day. So we couldn't get in. I don't know if it's still the same, but we couldn't get in early. We had to come in with the audience as well. So you run ahead of the audience. And you start powering everything up to make sure that when the first person gets to the stand, everything is on. And we get to the stand, and it was raining the entire night. And all the branding that we laid down to protect from the wind was obviously soaked in water and frozen solid, like completely ruined. So now we're standing there defrosting branding with hot water while audiences are coming in. And I said to myself, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And I know there's a few people, we joke here at Multimedia, there's two kinds of people who do one Bothaville excursion and people who say we can do it better. And you are obviously part of the team that says, no, we can do it better. And we love going back there.
Let's try again.
Yeah, like what can go wrong? But the industry kicks you hard, and there are also people who ultimately kick you hard. Who gave you your first brutal reality check?
That is without a doubt Mr. Jason Fritz. Just to give you context, I always, on his birthday and stuff, I always tell him he's the man that stresses me out like no other, but I wouldn't want to do anything without asking him first. He gave me my first reality check, and he's the reason why I keep a laser meter in my bag. As a whole woman, I can show you. Here's my bag. There's my bag. Here's my laser meter. Because of Jason Fritz, I keep a laser meter with me at all times. The other day, my sister thought it was a lipstick and she took out a laser meter. So, yeah, Jason has just always been, and it was a simple thing of a stage being, it was under a marquee and the stage legs were 800. But once the screen was on it, the marquee somewhat covered, the draping covered the lid. So we found him and he was like, can you measure the ceiling? And I was like, bro, I have a tape measure. What do you mean measure? And ever since that day, it was like, yes, he's like, how many meters? And I literally stood there and I was like, if I do like that, it's kind of, I'll know more or less what a meter is. So ever since that day, I just always keep a laser meter with me. So he's the reason I'm always prepared on an event and I always think of a plan B. But yeah, I know a meter now. So that's how I do it.
You triggered this memory. So I can't remember what the context was of the story, what happened, but we were also talking about heights of certain things. And I think it was like, let's say it was 400 high. And Annika, our head of content, was like, I think it's about that high, or that much. And I was like, you have no idea how to measure things on the fly. And it became this joke that if someone talks about a size of something, you would always go like, I think it's about that long. Oh, it's 500 kilometers to Cape Town. Oh, I think it's about that much. Exactly. And like we laughed about it. And then one day while I was in studio on The Voice, I said to Yaku, one of the lighting techs, also like something is whatever length. And Yaku stood there and he was like, I think it's about that much. And I was like, I think there's a generational thing where everything is about that long. But I think when it comes to reality checks, everyone at multimedia most probably gets their first reality check from Jason. And I remember there was a point, I can't remember how long ago it was, but there was a point where everyone ripped you apart for a project. And I remember like you were very emotional. Fani came into my office and he's like, Jade is in a bit of a two-stunt in a situation there. She's crying. It's been brutal. Like we've ripped her apart. And I walked into your office and I said to you, I'm not here to fight with you. I'm not here to discuss this. I just hope that you learned your lesson. And then you started crying again because now he's not yelling at me. Now he's just telling me he's disappointed. And at times it can feel in these moments that the entire world has turned on you and everyone hates you. Everyone thinks you're useless. And that is not the case. Like you have the experience. I think people often think more about you than what you think of yourself when you make a mistake. Yeah. And when you make a mistake, people start to doubt their abilities and things will always go wrong. And when things go wrong, people are suddenly like, I don't think I'm cut out for this industry because I made a mistake and everyone ripped me apart. But you have to learn from those things. And I said to the team this morning in our rock stand-up meeting, forgive yourself for not knowing the things that only time could teach you. And making mistakes takes years. I think you're still on this journey that you are going to make mistakes and it's not going to be fun. And every now and again, Jason, myself, or Fani might yell at you and you feel horrible and you think it's the absolute worst. And then you realize when you're on site that things can always be worse. What is the worst moment you've ever had at an event?
At an event. I think at an event, a choir decided to cancel on us because they weren't going to get media coverage and they canceled on us like a few hours before the event. Said, oh no, we thought we were going to be on TV and therefore we cannot perform. That was chaotic, but at the same time, I forgot to order their t-shirts. So I was kind of happy that they canceled in a way. But yeah, like I think that for me, because that's just pure panic and you need to manage the client in a sense of like, don't worry, we got this under control. I actually didn't like them. It's, you know what, we'll figure out something else. And then I think my top was getting stuck in the mud before an event. And when I looked at the time, I had 10 minutes until doors opened. And I was like, not a hell am I getting there in 10 minutes. Yeah, I think that was probably the worst thing, worst thing possible that could have happened to me at an event. That comes to mind, at least.
Was that now in Bothaville, the day I was there?
Yeah. Yeah. And your CEO's waiting for you in FOH. Gosh, I can't tell you. I was like, why did he have to come today? Why did he? Oh, that was crazy.
I wasn't planning on going to Bothaville, and then an opportunity popped up for me to quickly go through. And I get there, and there's no one. And I'm like, where the hell is everyone? Like it's quiet. It's a graveyard. And I'm like, the audience is moving around. Everything is on, but I can't find anyone. The people are missing.
My people.
And where's my people? Where's my tribe? And as I walk into the building, one of the team members comes past, and I'm like, bro, where's everyone? He's like, no, they got stuck in the mud. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's something that happens at Bothaville. Once it rains, people get stuck in the mud. So I go and I sit at FOH, and I remember that door opening, and you just looked at me like, kill me now. Like, what the hell is happening? And I had such a good internal giggle. Because I knew the day I'm there, you guys are obviously
I was ready to walk. I was willing to walk. I actually said to Eddie, I was like, how far is the entrance from here? He's like, Scott Fair. And I was like, Eddie, I'm going to have to walk. I have rain boots on. I'll make it through the mud. And Rico is coming. Like, oh my gosh. And I just walked into FOH and I found you there. And I was just like, you know, you suddenly, like, no, I wanted to go into a hole at the same time, but I just wanted to scream and run away. So yeah, mixed emotions.
No, I could see on your face. You were like, oh hell, this sucks. But so I don't know if I've ever shared this story, but I used to do lighting for PJ Powers. And we were in the middle of a theater run with her. The show was running at night. So I wasn't working for multimedia yet. And we get this request that Jason needs me to come do lighting on a show. The show is in the morning. It finishes, like, everything will be done at around 2. So I'm like, yeah, cool, I can do it. I can still go through to the theater and do my evening show. So once we were done striking everything, I said to Jason, okay, cool, thank you very much. I'm off. And Jason is like, no, you're not. He's like, you will stay here until the truck doors close. And I'm like, dude, that's not really what we agreed to. Like, I have another show. And he's like, I don't care. I'm paying you for the day. You will be here until I can tell you can go. So eventually we closed the truck doors. Now I'm like, late. I think we were in Pretoria, if I remember correctly. I think it was in Pretoria or on our way to Midrand. And the show was in Joburg CBD. The theater show was in Joburg CBD at the theater. I can't remember what the theater's name was. So I started speeding on the highway, just like, get to the venue. And like 500 meters from the theater, the police pull me over. And they're like, oh, no, you're speeding, like properly speeding. We have to arrest you now. So I say to them, I'm like, gentlemen, I'm doing lighting for PJ Powers inside the theater. I'm late. The show's about to start. And the traffic cop is like, Tandeka, no, go. So I'm like, okay, cool, sweet. Thank you very much. At least they know who PJ Powers is. And I race to the venue. And as I run down this hallway, the doors close in front of me and I can't get in on time. Luckily, there was someone there that was able to operate the first half on the show. So when they went into break, I could then sneak in and go and operate the rest of the show. But that's the thing, like, you think you plan things perfectly, but things will always go wrong in your career in some shape or form. Yeah. So what I want to know from you is, when did something go wrong, and how did you need to make a call in seconds to ultimately deal with it?
So I think I'll refer back to when the choir cancelled on us. I literally, because it was within the corporate and they're very involved within youth activations and stuff like that. And that's, I think it's also so important that when you have a client, is that you understand their social media footprint, what they target, what they do, how they do it. And I had to make a call of bringing in a whole nother choir, which didn't even make sense in my mind when I said it out loud because I didn't see the rehearsals. I just knew what their social media says. I don't know what they sound like in real life. Is it even real? Because AI is such a real thing now. And I made a call and I was like, no, bring them in. And the next thing was, I remember my one colleague was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes. I had to fake it till I make it. But in my heart, I was like, I'm not sure. Oh my God, what if this messes up? What if it's a failure? Yeah, and I just had to make the call, and I swear I was at FOH and I was like trying to give them signals to give them like a vibe and whatever, because it was their first time performing live in front of an audience. Little did I know their social media seemed lit. But yeah, that was when I had to make a call and fake it till we make it. I even said to my one colleague, like, let's just sing on the side, let's create a vibe. And everyone loved this. So I got clients involved.
Spread the energy.
You should have seen me at FOH. You know, the technicians are like, what is happening here behind me? And I'm just like, don't worry, focus, just focus. So yeah, that was a call on the move, but at least it worked out. So yeah.
And what mistakes do you cringe about that you've made?
You remember you spoke earlier on about that dark time when we forgot to quote for accommodation. Yeah.
The one where you hopefully learned your lesson.
Cringe. I cringe so much when I booked accommodation now for 50 people to go down to the Free State. That list that times, and it got more complicated because there was 3 different hotels that we had to move like in between. I can firmly say I've learned my lesson there because everything was seamless. I actually checked and double checked the brief. So yeah, that is still something that I cringe about. And you know, in your mind, you try and convince yourself like, no man, but we weren't supposed to quote. And then you're like, no, but we were. And then you're like, no, but just be easy on yourself. So yeah, that's one thing I still cringe about is accommodation. I hate seeing accommodation in a brief now.
If you go on holiday now, you go into like full Vietnam flashback experiences when you need to plan your own accommodation. Like, no.
I don't do it. I give it to him. I'm like, no, please, you sort out the accommodation. Let me know how much it is. You decide the dates. You decide where we stay. I don't want to do it. Like, I am so traumatized by accommodations. I don't want it.
There's this meme on social media where they have the couples together, and it's like the husband would like pose and it would say, good at planning, good at communication, good at everything. Morning. And then the wife is like, good morning, good day.
Good afternoon.
That's the vibes you're getting.
I'm that person. 100%. Accommodation traumatizes me all the time. So no.
So in between forgetting about accommodation and getting stuck in mud and not being on site by the time the CEO arrives, what do these moments teach you?
I think these, they always say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, all of that things. And I think in this industry, it's actually, they mean it. Like, it didn't kill you, so it will make you stronger. I do feel like I'm stronger in that regard. Like, and as much as we know that we're going to mess up and something's going to fall through the cracks, I think it just gave me a lot of confidence and it's helped me create a proper system, like proper planning, not leaving things for tomorrow, sticking to like a tight deadline and a personal deadline, I think is so important. Like now I just do constant checks. I double checked something just to make sure. But yeah, I think that's what this industry will teach you that. And the thing is, you can't apply the same approach to every event because it's not the same. So as you're going along, you're like, oh, it's familiar, but it's different. So I think like agility is such a big word in this industry because you just have to be like, okay, who's it now? Okay, this personality needs to come out. So yeah, I think that's what it's taught me the most. It's just keep your stuff together.
There's this interesting thing. I don't know if I've ever told you about it. I know I mentioned it to Fani, and it's something that I wanted to mention one morning in an ops meeting, but I don't think I ever got to it. So when you go on, let's say you go on holiday, everything is being planned. You're going on some fancy trip. Your brain is very excited. So it releases dopamine because of the anticipation, the excitement, and all of those things. And then you go on the trip and you're like, oh, this is great. But the anticipation of something was ultimately the thing that was most enjoyable for your brain, releasing the dopamine of, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. So someone was thinking about this thing and they said they wonder how that impacts a corporate sector. So someone did a study and they found that people enjoy to be in the planning stage, but not really in the execution stage. So their brain releases all this dopamine because they see the future, they're imagining a better world. It's so wonderful, it's so great. And then when they need to start doing the work, it becomes effort and they don't actually want to deal with this stuff. And when they don't want to deal with this stuff, they revert back to planning. That's why some companies never get beyond just doing strategic planning, because no one actually wants to do the work. And it's interesting with a department such as yours, because there's a lot of planning on one person specifically now. Like with the company as a whole, different departments deal with different things. But it's such an easy thing to get sucked into this creative moment of thinking of all these things, and it's going to be glamorous, and I can see the choir inside the venue. You still need to actually book it. You still need to do it. And if the moment you fail and you forget your accommodation, the world gets very, very, very brutal on you. So in between you being dumped by choirs and forgetting certain things, how did those mistakes and traumas change how you lead or plan today?
So I think it's obviously changed how I lead, because I make sure that from the get-go, from the planning phase, everything is written down and we have a planning production schedule and we know like this is what we need to do. And that's why I think it's important to have a vision on paper so that we know what is required to execute. Because I get that, like, it's so nice to sit in a thing and be like, we can do this and have a woman hanging from the ceiling. And instead, you need to find a woman that's willing to hang from a ceiling. And if we can even rig in the venue is another thing. So
You realize it's an outdoor show in the middle of an open field. And you're like, I can see the moon, guys.
And that's about it that we're going to see. So yeah, I think it's definitely changed how I lead, and I think how I plan with events, because it's like I said, it's not the same event all the time. So you have to literally turn the page and be like, okay, clean page. What do we need to do? How do we need to do it? And when do we need to do it by? And I think it's also so important just to like manage expectations and manage yourself, because you too can be like, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then you're like, but it's not possible. So let's not sell that idea until we know that it's fully possible.
Yeah. What would you say is the hardest part of leading in the industry that no one warns you about?
I think being a female is not the easiest thing, especially being in a male-dominated industry, such as, like, for example, when you're on site. Most of the time, if not all the time, I'm the only female. That has been the biggest challenge, because I don't know, sometimes they think that you don't know what you're doing or what you're saying or why you, if I say call time is at 7 and they're like, show's at 10, and I'll be like, just because you say that, I'll make it 6. But I'm not that kind of person all the time.
Just because you say that, like, you're staying here overnight. You're not going home.
Yeah, exactly. So that has made it really hard. But at the same time, I think I've also been protected a lot by like our technicians and stuff that just knows. And if I'm not sure on something, I will definitely lean on them, because I cannot go and change the LED screen because the client said so. I need to enable them to do what they need to do when they need to do it. So yeah, I think that's just my biggest challenge is, and I also don't understand the lingo of we need a XCAT5, what. It's a lot. So I always just say to them, speak a language I'll understand, and I'll relay the message to the office. But once I know what's Cat 5 fiber, and I'm like, yeah, I can get that. We have one at the office. So sometimes you just have to speak their language, no matter what the language is.
On my very first festival, I was a stage manager, and one of the technicians came up to me and he's like, yo, I'm going to use XLR. I don't remember what it was. But he was like, I need an XLR from the storeroom. Can you radio them that they bring one? And I'm like, what's an XLR? And he's like, it's a cable. And I'm like, I don't believe you. You are gonna make me radio for something that is not real. I don't believe you. I don't trust you. I don't want to look like an idiot. Meanwhile, it is something that is real. But I was like so
It's
paranoid because
so
like when you
crazy.
join a festival, like people send you to find things that don't exist. And I was just so paranoid that the boys are gonna screw me over. But here at Multimedia, Annika, my wife, has this comment. She says like there's I have my harem here at Multimedia, a bunch of females that are top performers. And I was blessed enough when I studied to only study with females. Like the entire arts group that was in class was pretty much just females. And then you start to realize very quickly that there's things that dudes are great at, but there's things that they suck at, and the females dominate with those things. And I think the technical industry for so long has been male driven. And if a female comes in, they think they need to compete with the guys on their turf. And that is not how you create value for any sort of customer or business, because you have things that make you special that the dudes can't do. And we can be shallow and say that it's emotional intelligence. The females are better at handling certain things with customers than what the guys are. The guys are very quick to snap and bite and whatever the case may be. It doesn't mean that females don't do it, but they have a different way to process things and deal with certain things, be a lot more empathetic to people. And there's always space for men and females on shows. And I think people need to play to their strengths ultimately. Because if you go in and you say, I want to build a LED screen now, I'm going to say, how long is your body going to last? Because even the guys don't last past 40 in some cases, if they're lucky. Do what you are best at and focus on what you can do to ultimately move things forward. So, what skills would you say matters most that people can't necessarily learn from textbooks?
I think agility is a big one. No one can teach you that skill unless you are in the field and you actually need to understand how quick things are moving. But I think a skill is to not always believe that you know better. Even if you do, it's important to listen to what the other person is saying. And then we try and work in between or try and find a middle ground. Just because you have the qualification doesn't mean that you're always right. And to say I've done this before, I know it, I've got the badge is never the approach that you can use. Because someone will always, it's so important. I think it's what they won't teach in a textbook is just to listen. Because everybody thinks that they know better or want to show that, no, I know I can do it, or prove themselves at least, because I also believe in this industry, you're only as good as your last job. So I think everyone's on the top. I need to show my value. Where sometimes it's just important to listen to each other and see where you're coming from and just get a different perspective. Sometimes a simple thing, we were on site and we had to put AstroTurf, and the client was like, please, can you tile or fix? There was like an open part where due to the construction, the tiles cracked and it was just open cement part. And the guys were standing there and they were like, I don't know what we're going to do. We can't find tiles now and it's too far to drive out to Klerksdorp. And I literally stood there and I was like, Dean, just extend the AstroTurf. Just stick AstroTurf over it. And they looked at me like, oh, that's such a good idea. And I was like, bruh, like that, just pull it over. So that's what I can like appreciate, was also just like, it was like, that's a brilliant idea. And I was like, no, it's not. I just cover with Astro stuff. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And like our PM as I was like, oh yeah, good. And I was just like, guys, it's not that deep. Like, we're just going to cover it. So we're not fixing it. We just need to make it look pretty. And I think that sometimes they don't teach you in a textbook. It's just to listen. Someone might sound silly, but they do have a reason why they're saying it. So yeah.
You raised an interesting thing now. You said, I have done this before, I know how to deal with it. I think that's one of the biggest things that leads to complacency, especially when you deal with customers and you start getting this mentality that you've done the same show for 5 years and you become entitled to it. Like, I will get it because I've done it for the last 5 years. And when you have conversations with clients, they often say things in a very kind way so that you don't feel insulted. They might say, we want something different and unique. And then you're like, oh no, but I've done it for 5 years. I'm going to do it the exact same way. And then suddenly a competitor gets the show and you look at it and you're like, there's nothing different about this. But it's the way that you show up and you become complacent in your behavior that ultimately leads to you losing certain things. And when you start losing things because of complacency, you end up in the spiral of just pressure consistently. And then you kind of hate this industry. So when life happens, shows fall apart, clients scream at you, how do you handle the pressure when everyone is looking for answers?
I'm going to be very honest here. You fake it till you make it. I think if you, as the leader, are looking panicked and like, oh my God, Kyan said, it's going to throw the whole team off. So even if I get a thing and I'm like, oh crap, we got a problem, I always go to them with like, we're going to be calm. And it's something that I'm very big about. And I think the guys know it on site as well, is that do not just come to me with the problem, come to me with a possible solution and let's see what we can do. And it's something that actually stood out to me so much when we were in the Free State. One of our technicians, Gift, every time he came to me with a problem or he would go to Andrew Hen or whatever with an issue, he would always be like, Andrew, this is my problem, but I think if I take the Cat 5, this is gonna work. And for me, that just, and I knew what he meant when he said the Cat 5, you know?
Yeah.
And I was just like, for me, that's what helps on site, is that no matter what the problem, we're gonna fake it, we're gonna be calm because we've dealt with this, we're professionals. And I think when we speak to clients, we tell them we have 35 years of experience. We cannot have 35 years of experience. And I'm like, oh my God, it's not gonna work. So for me, it's just not fake it till you make it, but just, yeah, sure. No, that's no problem. We'll fix
confidence.
That. But yeah, yes. And I think that's what's so important.
I had a realization now. You should keep a Cat 5 cable with you at all times. So when you get stuck in the mud, you can just throw a Cat 5 to it and hopefully it fixes it. Because clearly the Cat 5 does everything for
solution.
Jade. So, Jade, if you couldn't work in events, what career would you choose and why?
I think I would be in agriculture. And I think it's also linked so much into events, like how a simple seed can be the end result of putting food on a table and how it constantly needs to be nurtured and cannot be neglected. And I think I love that process. I love that of it requires attention every day and it cannot just be in the back burner and it's something that AI can't do. So for me, I think I'd be in agriculture. I really love the process. And it's much like events. If you get an event and you leave it on the back burner and you don't pay attention to it every day, once it's time to harvest, we will not have a proper harvest because it will be an absolute crap show. I wanted to say another word, but we'll work with crap show.
Jade, I know for a fact you don't want to work in agriculture because of the blinkies. You want to work in agriculture because the ooms dra kort broekies and you can drive with them in the bakkie. That is the main reason you want to be in the ag sector.
One of them actually said to me, he came up to me and he's like, het jy ooit die wêreld van bo af gesien? So I was like, well, thinking maybe this guy has a helicopter and he's like, I'm going to take your family. He's like, yeah, kom sit net hier. I was like, oh, yes, laugh. And your oude dom. Like, yes, see. Wow. Farmers will humble you.
Yeah, Sherman's like, what the hell is going on those farms? Because Jade is just having a good party with the ooms. Jade,
I'll tell you a funny story. Yes. I can tell you a funny story. So,
you could tell
also farmers invited me to, they said, nee, jy moet deurkom, because we were speaking English first, and then this other oompie said, nee, sy praat verskriklik mooi Afrikaans. And I stood and I'm like, my Afrikaanse eetime is amper uit. Like amper. And anyway, he says, yeah, ek het 'n lekker plaas. Jy moet kom kuier. Ek het kameelperde. Ek het bokkies. So I was like, kameelperde. Now in my mind, I did warn that the Afrikaans airtime was up. And I was like, a kameelperd has to be a camel. And I was like, lekker oom, kan ek hom ry? And he said, Jari Jade, sê jou maak ek sommer 'n plan. Now, I was like, Jari, ek kom. What's your plaas? Waar's jou plaas? And only afterwards, I was like, a kameelperd, man. Googled it. It's a flippin' giraffe. And this one said, I can ride this giraffe. So this one would be in agriculture. They will allow me to do anything I wanted to.
Yeah, as long as you talk the taal, they are like, you can do whatever the hell you want to do.
And I was like, yeah,
what
I'm
do
so
you-
mark for you. So yeah.
What do you wish someone
Crazy.
told you before you joined the industry?
There's no such thing as a 9 to 5. We take working late to whole nother levels. And the people that you work with, it's important to build good relationships with because you spend more time with them than what you do at home. So yeah, I
Fact.
think that's
One piece of
what I can
information,
tell you.
one piece of information or advice you would give to someone who's currently entering the industry.
I would say find a department that you love and that you're passionate about because you'll never work a day in your life if you do. I still walk into a venue and it's one of my favorite things to do is to walk into an empty venue and take it all in. And I know that there's a fan tech and trailer that needs to be offloaded. And I know in about a day or two, it's going to look like something phenomenal. It's just a very, very fulfilling. It's hard. It's long hours. It's tough. But at the end of it, once you show ready, there's nothing that like can beat that feeling.
If you could go back 10 years, what would you tell yourself?
Study to be a doctor. I would be like, just study. Just study further. Study harder.
Jade?
Like, just do it.
Jade, in your current role, you have the opportunity to go and ride giraffes. If you become a doctor, you have to touch gross things. I do not think you would enjoy touching the gross things, Jade.
So yeah, I
So,
know. Yeah,
as we
that's very true.
As we start to wrap this up, I have some rapid questions for you that you weren't prepped for. Early mornings or late nights?
Early mornings.
Perfection or momentum?
Momentum.
Big budget or small creative freedom?
Ooh, big budgets. I'll make it work.
Yeah, I was like, the amount of times people say creative freedom, I'm like, and then I'm standing there yelling at people because we're not meeting our sales targets. Can we please focus on big budget? And then, worst advice you have ever ignored, thankfully.
What's advice? You can be anything you want to be. I believe that that's probably the worst advice. You can be anything you want to be if you just believe. You don't need to believe, you need to work to it. It's not about believing in yourself. It's about putting the effort in. I can believe I need to be rich, but I need to also invest my money in order to get there. So, yeah.
I can believe I'm a mermaid. That ain't gonna happen.
Exactly.
Or they say,
I can believe I have
mean
good
a
air.
merman.
Imagine, no.
and then one word to describe the future of events.
Ooh, I like the word the future of events. I just think it's going to be, I don't want to say phenomenal, but I just see breaking barriers. I know that's two words, breaking barriers. It's two words, but I just think that the event industry is it's gonna take off. And I think with what we're planning to do, it's not gonna be the normal. So if I can just say epic, like I just want to do epic events. Like, you walk into someone, you're like, this is stupid epic, man. It's epic. So yeah, I think epic is my word then. Because breaking is
It's
too-
epic, Jade. It's epic. Epic, Jade.
Jade.
Where can people follow you if they want to connect with you?
They can follow me on LinkedIn or social media, Instagram. But LinkedIn is more. Let's keep it profesh.
Yeah. You only follow Jade on other social media platforms if you want to see her work out. That is Jade's side
Yes.
hustle. Is humiliating the rest of us by actually going to the gym while we all sleep. But Jade, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for sharing your story with everyone. It's always refreshing to hear people's experiences, the traumas, the fear that they create in themselves when they get stuck in the mud and they're not going to be there by the time that I show up. But to wrap this up, I think the most important thing for me is how proud we are of the person you've become. Walking into this place with not a bit of experience and having to figure it out and learn and make mistakes and grow and ultimately moving into more responsibility, never saying no, just jumping in and doing it. So for our viewers, for those of you that are entering the industry, ask yourself, how can you provide value? Don't just walk in saying, I want to be the head of events and you will give it to me right now. Say, how do I provide value? Understand the journey that others have been on. Because if you're not willing to walk the journey that people like Jade, Michael, and Fani has been on for the last 10, 15 years, whatever the case may be, you're not going to be able to reach the goals and dreams that you want to achieve. Go, take the first step, learn, make mistakes, deal with the punches that always hit you in the face, and ultimately grow into something that is special and unique. But that is where we're going to end today's episode. Thank you for sticking around, and we will see you in the next episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.